Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and it's Villain Month! Yeah! My favorite month of the year for the Game Hub, and it's also my favorite holiday, Halloween, in a couple of weeks. I just love it. When I first decided doing the Game Hub videos about 4 years ago, or maybe 5, almost 5 years, I decided that I was going to have 1 month in particular that was going to be dedicated to a certain type of videos. And I decided to do my favorite month, October, as Villain Month. Because with the creepy, kooky skeletons that will send shivers down your spine, villains make up everything in the world. From video games, to novels, to movies, to TV shows, to everything. Without villains, nothing is worth the adventure. And seeing as it's my second year of the Game Hub, well, not my second year, but since I got my jacket, 1 second as either through editing or my love of Halloween, my pumpkin suit. I'm not wearing the pants because basically you're all looking at me from this level. But once I saw this jacket last year at my local Spirit Halloween, I had to have it. For 2 reasons. 1, because it's freaking cool. And 2, if the nostalgia critic can wear something like this and talk about bizarre shit, so can I. Now to start off Villain Month, I have had to rewrite this next list for about the last 2 years. It was an idea. It was something I wanted to do, but I had to narrow it down via movies that I've seen. So we're going to be looking at the best baddies from the cinema screen. Now, once again, a couple rules are going to apply. 1, movies I have seen. 2, these villains... Oh, wrong list. These villains have to either follow 2 out of the 3 criteria for this list. 1, it has to be a live action movie. The villains can be someone's fate. They must be in a live action movie. So no animated movies. As much as there are of those a lot, I might do an animated villains list. That's not Disney later down the line. 2, they have to be actual villains. Like, you can't say someone's a villain just because they're somewhat bad and they obscure the hero's progress through the movie. They actually have to have a legitimate villain role in the film. And these 13 top that in spades. And number 3, they can either be goofy villains or monstrous villains or somewhere right in the middle. And that's going to be a lot of criteria. And I really do hope these ones top the list and make Villain Month fun for you guys. So sit back and relax as we go through Gamer K's top 13 live movie villains. And why top 13? Because here at the Game Hub, only the odd can be number 1. Let's start it off. Starting off my list, I decided to go for something that's a little bit hilarious and at the same time kind of dumb at the same time. There are 3 villains right here in this spot, and because they're in the same movie. I'm gonna say this. Putting fun villains on is... also, spoiler alert for any of these movies for people who haven't seen a majority of them, because there will be spoilers. If I get to a movie and you haven't seen it, and just skip it. I don't know exactly how much you can skip to in this, but So from the movie Horrible Bosses, and who hasn't had a horrible boss in their life, we have the 3 main antagonists: David Harkin, Julia Harris, and Bobby Pellet, aka real fucking asshole, evil crazy bitch, DDS, and a dipshit cokehead. Yeah, that's how the movie describes all of them. And these three are the quintessential versions of a god-awful boss that everyone hopefully kind of pictures some of their bosses. I mean, a good majority of them. So we have David Harkin, played by the amazing Kevin Spacey, who's basically a boss who is an absolute jackass to people. And he does whatever the hell he wants because, yeah, he's got the power and he can do it. And then we have Bobby Pellet, who is voiced... One second, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to get this right. It's because if I don't get this one right, the freaking evil voice that is technically a boss for me, who runs the channel a little bit every time they pop out. I don't know who it is, but I just got to do a quick search. But played by Colin Farrell, who is a pretty hilarious villain, who's a pretty hilarious boss. His father basically ran the business. He died in a car crash. He took over and started milking the company for everything it's worth by doing shit bad and taking all the money and blowing them on hookers and cocaine. And he's pretty hilarious. And then we have Julia Harris, who is played by Jennifer Aniston in her most raunchiest performance ever, where she plays a sex-crazed dentist who keeps trying to screw her employer, who is engaged, and she's basically blackmailing him with photos she took if he doesn't do her. Okay, in all fairness, Bateman and Sudeikis have the worst bosses in this, and Charlie Day is just complaining about having a hot boss who's obsessed with him. Although in retrospect, I do agree that these three needed to be stopped. So, pulling off Strangers on a Train, they try to swap each other's murders. I mean, yeah, all three of them are planning to ruin their lives in the most devious way possible. So, yeah, I agree. These bosses did need to get whacked. And the aftermath of the first movie is fantastic. Everything is settled away. And yeah, again, they're on the bottom of the list because they're basically a sociopath, a drug fiend, and a sex addict. In the most hilarious way possible, mind you. They're at the bottom of the list because as dickish as they are, they're not really that evil compared to some of the others on this list. So, horrible bosses. You gave us three great villains to hate and some to love, and love in a little bit of ways. But yeah, this list, we're going to the cream of the crop. Shawshank Redemption was one of the best Stephen King movies for me. And unlike most Stephen King movies, there was nothing magical in it. And I'm completely 100% satisfied with that. Mostly because we didn't need a supernatural bullshit. We didn't need a guy to make a light bulb turn on and bring a dead mouse to life. We didn't need a psychotic clown to torture kids. And thank God they got rid of that one scene in the book that wasn't in the movie. Thank God. It fans who read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But aside from that, Shawshank also gave us a villain who we definitely wanted to see go down. And that was Warden Norton. And this guy is downright devious. You put if you put the most corrupt people in one place and have them play Monopoly, this guy would probably be winning. I am not kidding. Not only does he take bribes, he has a corrupt system in Shawshank. not only that, but he keeps and okay, yeah, again, spoiler at the beginning of the video, so I talk about the movie first before I get to the villain. So if you hear the movie, you haven't seen it, don't watch this. Although to be fair, if you're over the age of 20 and you've never seen any of these movies, you missed out by a mile. So yeah, one thing I love about Warden Norton is how somewhat non-existent a villain he is until like the third act of the movie. He's like, I mean, yeah, he's a villain because he's the warden of this prison. And I mean, Andy Dufresne does his best to make things a little bit better by doing the taxes, doing all this stuff for the warden and the guards. So, and yeah, he's a corrupt official, so that's no surprise. But what really made him a villain is by near the end of the third act, where a new prisoner comes in and tells Andy that he was roomed with a guy who murdered Andy's wife and the guy she was with. And Andy's been doing all this time when he was innocent. And not wanting to let Andy get away and reveal all the stuff that happened in Shawshank. Or possibly he didn't want to lose a potential, like, good investment. Warden has Clancy Brown's guy kill the dude so Andy stays in prison. Warden Norton, again, like the last three on the list, he's near the bottom of the list because he doesn't have that much presence as a villain in the movie. He's not really that antagonistic until near the final bit. And the way Andy just gives him one right at the end, it is karmic justice in full. Taking his money, giving his ledger, because that's the thing with corrupt idiots. They always keep a ledger. That way they know who they're blackmailing and how much they're getting from everyone. And not wanting to become an inmate of his own prison, Norton meets his end pretty soon, and it's very hilarious. And it's done by the fact that if he was a little bit more skeptic near the beginning of the movie, he could have avoided all of this. So yeah, Warden Norton. You may not have got to be in Shawshank as an inmate, but at least you were the last crooked, hopefully, last crooked warden ever. Until Longest Yard, and yeah, that warden's pretty corrupt too. On to the next baddie. Yes, they're on this list. No, it's not because they're hot. It's because they're good villains. Okay, yes, they're hot is a little bit of a benefit, but still. From one of my favorite musicals ever, these two dames prove that sometimes you do get away with murder, and it is oh so beneficial. From Chicago, the musical, and honestly, couldn't they have shot any of it in Chicago? I mean, Chicago. We have the Dames of Murder. We've got Velma Kelly and Roxy Hart. These two are fantastic villains just because of how much we kind of love them. At the same time, we want them to get off scot-free. Yeah. Although will admit the song They Had It Coming is still one of my favorite villain songs in a musical. Seriously, any of you women out there, any man will let you murder them if that song is attached. Just saying. Critics' words, not mine. But I agree. So, Velma starts off the movie by putting on her big performance solo act because her sister didn't show up. And that's revealed in the beginning of the movie that she's arrested for murdering her husband and her sister because she caught them in the act. Yep. Well, that's one way to start the show. A little while later, Roxy is screwing a guy who promised to get her a gig, but he was basically stringing her along, and she took the gun, and yeah. It's pretty cut and dry, to be honest, with these villains. Like, they're not really sinister. They just kill because, yeah, they got screwed over. And, of course, both of them want to be in the big spotlight. Like, all dames, basically. One thing I really love about these guys, Roxy and Velma, is how well they kind of complement each other throughout the movie. Velma was getting fame because of the murder and almost getting stardom. Roxy wants stardom, but doesn't have the cachet to make it happen from behind bars. Where the famous lawyer Billy Flynn tries to get both of them out scot-free so that they can both live their dreams of life on the stage. And I will admit that in the beginning, they do kind of have this kind of back and forth where Velma's the star and Roxy's kind of the acolyte a little bit. And at the same time, near the middle of the movie, the roles flip and switch, and I love that immensely. Whenever a villain doesn't stay to the one category of a villain, I really enjoy it. For the most part, because, again, if a villain's so predictable, there's not much to enjoy about them. So, I gotta say, these killer ladies definitely put on one hell of a show, and it was a final curtain that was perfect to see. Point of order, if you're going to build an intelligent supercomputer to basically control your company, you might not want her to give her a name that is proven to be evil. Let me just see what it spells again. Hang on one second, ladies and gentlemen. Here we have the Virtual Interactive Kinetic Intelligence, also known as Vicky from iRobot. Okay, seriously, if you're gonna name your computer system something, don't name her after something like this, because it's obviously gonna be evil. Vicky is another villain that doesn't really categorize a villain. Basically a villain with mixed beliefs and everything, because she theorizes that because human beings created robots to protect us, but we constantly pollute our air and endanger ourselves, that we can't be trusted with our own freedom. And actually, given the state of the world right now and everything, because of Tide Pod challenges and people lighting themselves on fire in their own bathrooms, you can kind of see her point. But at the same time, yeah, like all murderous robots that go insane, yeah, Vicky needed to be deleted. She's pretty high on the list, but at the same time, she's pretty low. Well, she's not high on the list. She's basically somewhat getting into like really where the good villains are. Vicky is a villain composed of manipulation, control, and not wanting to take over the world, but basically enforce robotic martial law on all human beings by having a perversion of the 3 laws of robotics being her guide. And I will admit, that scene where she dies is glorious. And proof that Will Smith will definitely go out of his way to get rid of an annoying villain. Yeah, there's no real joke here, and there's not much really to talk about Vicky, considering she's only mentioned a little bit in the game, in the movie, and then she's revealed, and then, yeah, she's got less. Out of all the villains on this list, she's got definitely some of the lowest amount of time on screen. So, yeah, she's kind of low on the list for that. Her logic may be undeniable, but that she still had to die. Okay, if you haven't seen this movie, you need to get the hell out of my channel and go watch it. One of my favorite board games as a kid is also one of my favorite movies, Clue. No, not Get a Clue, Clue. based on the board game. This movie is the quintessential moment of a whodunit and in constant comedy, which is great. One thing I really loved about this movie was the fact that in theaters, it gives you 3 different endings. I kind of wish they did 6 endings, because there are technically 6 pieces on the board. And if you watch the DVD, you can choose to do all endings, or you can do, if you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend you do random ending, because then you can watch it 2 more times with your friends and get a different ending. Hopefully. But the big villain reveal is great. I mean, what Nostalgia Critic said in his Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost thing? He did it. Wait a minute, am I allowed to play that? Well, it's only a couple seconds. I'm sure he won't do it. So basically, to quote an old cliche, the butler did it. Yeah, Wadsworth the butler, played by the legendary Tim frickin' Curry. A man of many talents, and always being a threat is one of them. Being the butler, he explains everything that's been going on through the backstories of all the characters, all the victims, and basically everything in between. And then in one of the endings, it is revealed that the guy who they all thought was their blackmailer was really the butler, and Wadsworth was the one blackmailing them. What a freaking twist. And the reason I love Wadsworth, like, if I ever do a Clue-themed party with my friends, I will 100% be the butler, and I won't be mad at it, because the butler is the guy who knows all. One thing that makes Wadsworth such a great character and such a great surprise villain is the fact that, considering everyone who's played Clue know that there is no butler. All the other characters were just brought in to be victims and build the story around a board game. Because all the main characters are the 6 pieces: Peacock, Green, Mustard, Plum, Scarlet, and White. So to have this character just be brought up just for the fun of it is insane. And it's also Tim Curry's acting that gives this villain the character that he needed. Considering, again, it's based on a board game, and the fact that Tim Curry's acting builds this character into something that you believe that who he is and what he's doing is real. And that's amazing. So I gotta say, who's going to clean up all the bodies now that the butler's gone? Wait a minute. Who's next? No. Why is he on this list? No, all seriousness. Why is this guy on the list? If he's fantastic, I am 100% sure he does not belong on this list. Really? Well, okay. Sherlock Holmes. Definitely one of my favorite series and my favorite movie. I never watched the TV show. I'm about to start reading the books pretty soon once I finish some other books. But Robert Downey Jr.'s movie was fantastic, and I can't wait for a third one. But god damn it, that first movie made it everything. Now, I know you guys wanted me to talk about James Moriarty because he is the quintessential Joker to quintessential Joker to Sherlock Holmes as Batman, but Lord Blackwell gets on this list again. He's not in the movie for long because he's presumed dead. Or he rises from the dead and everything. But okay, I'm going to be honest. When it comes to mind on mind, Moriarty, Beach, and Sherlock Holmes are neck and neck. When it comes to the supernatural, Lord Blackwell is by far a great threat when it came to Sherlock Holmes in the movie. He's basically an occult aristocrat who I believe was a bastard son to a guy in high society. And the guy's basically an occultist who believes in dark magic. And throughout the movie, every little thing that he's done to prepare for his ascension to power goes from murdering members, coming up with a toxin to kill people in order to make the illusion that he has mastered the dark arts. Throughout the movie, every little aspect of the movie, Sherlock is investigating on and coming up with how he did everything. Whether it's a small part of the plan or it's the big final. And in that final confrontation when Sherlock is deducting everything of how it happened, it's done very, very well. And Lord Blackwell, again, as much as he isn't on screen as a villain, his whole plan to kill all of Parliament and to make himself look like he's mastered the dark arts is pretty ingenious. And like Sherlock says, he better hope it's not superstitious, because the way he went about his plan, he fulfilled technically a ritual of ancient times. And I'm not going to lie, it's almost insane. I mean, I know the movie planned for everything, but for a story like this, it works immensely. And given the fact that the final scene of the first film, where Blackwell meets his end, it's so poetic, it's so ironic, and at the same time, it definitely made me want the second movie even more. And yeah, Moriarty was almost on this list, but in full actuality, Blackwell kind of had a little bit more presence than Moriarty did throughout the movie. And who knows? Moriarty may come back in the third movie, so it will be elementary, my dear viewers. You want me to continue this? You want answers? You can't handle the truth! Colonel Nathan R Jessup from A Few Good Men is goddamn perfect as a villain. This is a guy who the NCIS show could have as a villain, and it would definitely work. Played by the legendary Jack Nicholson, who won an Emmy. I believe he won an Emmy for this movie with Tom Cruise. And like I said, so Nathan R. Jessup is a colonel in the Marine who runs a base in Cuba. After one soldier tries to get out by reporting a crime that happened, Jessup orders 2 Marines to give him a code red, and the guy dies as a result. To save his own skin, he covers up the entire incident and throws those 2 to the wolves. But because of his arrogant ego, Tom Cruise's character, defense attorney, Caffey, I can't remember his first name, tries to get at his ego by pointing out his control issues and his demand to be respected. And again, the 3 scenes, like I said, he's only in 3 scenes, so he has less screen time than Vicky and Wadsworth. Wadsworth was in full of the movie, but not as a villain. we all know Nathan is lying, but it's throughout the rest of the movie for them to prove how to prove that he's responsible. And the courtroom scene is the best. All honesty, it's one of my favorite moments of any movie with Jack Nicholson. And it's goddamn perfect. If he did win an Oscar for this, I am happy. If he didn't, that's bullshit, because this scene is so... It is referenced so much in media that I don't understand how it didn't. After getting him to basically confess in court that he did order the code red. Again, it's one of the most memorable, quotable, and talked about scenes in movies. And that's basically it. What makes him a great villain is because he's manipulated everything from behind the scenes without having to be present through a majority of the film. And it's not only at the last quarter hour where Nicholson owns every goddamn moment of this movie. Every moment he's on screen, it doesn't matter if it's the beginning, if it's the middle, like the little beginning of the middle where he shows up, and to the end scene, it makes the entire movie worth it. So Jack Nicholson, I found out just yesterday that Nicholson's not doing so well. So, in honor of you, Jack Nicholson, I salute you and your entire acting career, because you are definitely one of my goddamn heroes. You play amazing villains, you play fantastic characters, and you do it with that smug, shit-eating grin that I love to see in every movie you're in. But let's continue. Okay. This is another movie where if you haven't seen it, keep going until you get to the next one. Last Night in Soho was a movie that had me by the throat. It was that intoxicating. Just seeing the trailer and seeing that it's not even giving away anything of story. And plus, it has two of my favorite actors, Anya Taylor-Joy, who is the goddess, and Matt Smith, who is an absolute legend. 1 second, guys. I was too much of a wuss to go see it in theaters. I had to buy it the first time, the minute I saw it, and it is a thrill movie that you need to experience. Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy is basically the quintessential version of putting peanut butter and chocolate together in a movie, because it is magical. It is insane. From everything in the movie, to the thriller aspects, to the mystery aspect, to the overall enjoyment and absolute batshittery that is this movie. It is a crime for any thriller fans to not have seen this movie. And most movies can't pull a fast one on me, but Last Night in Soho did. And it has everything to do with the villain of the movie, Sandy Alexandra Collins. She is a dame to kill. Anya Taylor-Joy, you have played so many amazing roles, and this one is no exception of what she's done. She who normally takes the sweet approach, who's a wallflower, someone who needs to be saved, from Split to the New Mutants to be fair, in the New Mutants she was a freaking badass, to Queen's Gambit, to Peaky Blinders, to this is her absolute peak. And she has passed that peak consistently. Sandy wanted to become a singer in Little Town Soho in London. And where she meets Jack, played by Matt Smith. And this is where it gets good. Auditioning her to sing in a theater, and then it's more of a burlesque show kind of, where Sandy falls into a life of being a escort, basically. There are some words I choose not to use, so I basically use the polite term escort for it. Yeah. And throughout all the scenes in this movie, we almost see where the movie is going with it. But then it pulls out the biggest twist ever. The landlady that rented, hang on. Eloise, sorry, I forgot her name for a bit. Eloise, the woman who rented her Sandy's old room in that building, is Sandy years later. Sandy was sick and tired of being told what to do and everything, and she killed Jack in self-defense after he tried to murder her when she wanted to quit. And then from that point on, she kept murdering all the men she brought back to her apartment and hid their bodies in the walls of her room and the floorboards. That's why Alexandra never left that apartment, because people would investigate. She took it over, and I gotta say, never before has a villain did a fucking 360 on me, and for me not to have a clue. And that's what makes Sandy a fantastic villain. From start, we think she's a victim. We think that she's dead and that we're trying to investigate what happened to her. And then, it pulls a 360 so fast, your head will spin. And in the end, she goes peacefully into the inferno where it's amazing. The entire film is fantastic. And goddamn, Anya Taylor-Joy proved her acting chops. Goddamn. It completely flips the script, this movie. Taylor, who's known for playing the soft, lovely character, is turned into a villain. And Matt Smith, who again, we all know him as being like this amazing doctor, to being an outright bastard. And it's done beautifully. It's done absolutely perfect. And the villain, she's a villain in herself. She is at that quintessential moment where all future thriller villains will be judged from now on. So, Sandy, you're definitely a dame men will kill for, but you'll probably kill them first. Okay, yeah, this next one is a bit mostly because I really love him. And the fact that he's a little bit high on the list is amazing, but it's hard to have a villain on this list that, for a movie that hasn't killed anyone. Hang on, who hasn't killed anyone? 1, 2. Okay, so basically only out of 13, only 3 of these people haven't killed anyone. And this one's an example. And if you haven't seen this movie, just leave right now. Where we're going, we don't need roads to talk about this villain. I am talking about the baddie himself, the quintessential bully of cinema, Biff Tannen. Now, of course, we know the legend. But who is Biff Tannen? Well, he's basically a high school bully, a attempted rapist, technically, because of the events of the first movie, an absolute dummy, a jerk, a monster. Biff just fits a lot of categories depending on what timeline you're in, all honesty. From the original timeline, Biff's a bully, a jerk, an absolute terrible, terrible person. In the second movie, he's a rich, manipulative, corrupt monster. And knowing all this now, he's still an amazing villain, to be honest. He's a villain that you don't want to see die. He's just a villain you want to see taken down a notch or two. And how do we do that? Whack! Anybody who says they never like Back to the Future is an idiot. Period. What makes Biff a great villain is that, yeah, he's a typical bully, but at the same time, he's never downright evil. Okay, yeah, he is a good majority. But he has that movie dumb charm that people love in certain movies. So yeah. Biff is near the top of the list because he's a favorite of mine because of Back to the Future. And the fact that he's an idiot. He's a joyful idiot. Like every time he talks, you can kind of get a laugh out of what he says. He acts like the big tough guy, and then he's taken down a notch, which changes him completely. And then he's built back up, and then he's built back down, and it works. So yeah, you gotta enjoy Biff in fluxes, just like the movie. So, if you're done watching me talk about Biff, how about you make like a tree and get out of here? Was that right? Here we're continuing with the hilarious villains. The Wet Bandits, a.k.a. the Sticky Bandits, a.k.a. the only villains in the world to get taken down by a 10-year-old, a.k.a. Harry and Marv from Home Alone. These two, much like Biff and the guy who's one spot above him, are the quintessential goofball idiots, criminal villains. I love them. Think about it. Their scheme is practically ingenious. I mean, Harry, posing as a police officer during Christmas time, goes to rich neighborhoods, informs people of robberies to make sure that their houses are protected. When in actuality, they're staking out the places to see when the alarm and everything go on. And it's freaking amazing. To Harry's absolute genius plan, to Marv being that dumb sidekick goofball who leaves the water on every house they steal, is their calling card. But at the same time, you've just marked where you stole from. And from the first movie to the second movie, their schemes aren't so enjoyable that half the time I'm rooting for them not to fall for the traps half the time, but I want them to get involved in the traps. They're just enjoyable, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. Harry and Marv made my Christmas time all the funnier and an absolute joy. Yeah. What can I say? They're a great set of villains who deserve their spot on this list. And at least they're not below like the number 8 spot. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, Harry and Marv, great villains. They made my holidays a lot more hilarious. And just remember, don't leave water faucets running. Don't confess your crimes to little kids. And for the love of God, do not name yourself the Sticky Bandits. Okay, we're at the number 3 spot, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone's going to want to know who's going to be number 1. Okay, can you not play that, please? I haven't mentioned him yet. Anyway, like I was saying, we're going to talk about a villain who is absolutely hilarious. Okay, will you stop showing it? Go! Okay. This is a villain who, again, is hilarious, is absolutely maniacal, and has earned his spot on this list in spades, and deserves every ounce of love we can give him. Okay, yes, it's Dr. Evil. God damn it! Could you not let me have this one? Dr. Evil is the parody villain of one of the greatest Bond villains ever. It's been a while, ladies and gentlemen. One sec. Ernest Stavro Blofeld. Wait a minute, this guy's name is Blofeld? That's absolutely hilarious. But he is an absolute idiot villain, and I love him in spades. And not only that, unlike any of the other villains on this list, he is in every single movie of his franchise. Wait, is he? Okay, except for Biff. His plan is to basically the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone still exists, right? Okay. What about the Alan Harkin project? Is that still? Oh, that was actually a thing. Okay, his whole thing is hijack nuclear weapons and hold the world ransom for $1 million. Oh, wait, that's not a lot of money anymore. These jokes are hitting the mark, so I don't care. What makes Dr. Evil so joyful is Mike Myers' acting. It's absolutely insane, and I love every freaking moment of it. In all three movies, he goes from maniacal to ridiculously insane to stupid to comical, and then he just circles back to the first one and repeats the cycle all over again. Like, the problem with a lot of villains in movies is that on the second time around, everyone gets sick and tired of him. But Dr. Evil just gets more enjoyable with every single movie. And I think a lot of people can agree with that. From his schemes to his weapons to his... Yeah, you all know I had to bring that up. I'm just going to say. But regardless, he gets on this list and he's at number 3 because he's so enjoyable. He's so iconic. And yeah, he went to the good side, which should have brought him down a little bit. But I'm still mostly talking about him from the first 2 movies where he was absolutely ingenious. So, are we probably going to get a good Austin Powers 4? You heard the man. Never did I thought the number 2 spot would absolutely be so far out of my comfort zone. And my sister, who if she watches this, is probably laughing her ass off right now. But I gotta say, I gotta put this guy at number 2. Out of all the villains on this list, he more than likely has the highest body count outside of the number 1. Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter. Never in a series of movies has a villain had so much renown, has so much notoriety, had so much presence just by speaking his goddamn name. Voldemort is one of the best villains ever created. And okay, I gotta do this one more time. Get the actor's name. So yeah, Tom Marvell Riddle, aka Lord Voldemort, is an absolute beast. An absolute monster of a villain. He is basically Magic Hitler! Yeah! From wanting to take over the wizarding world to eliminating all mudbloods and half-breeds. He's Hitler without the nose. And the mustache. And the accent. From such a terrible upbringing to an amazing backstory that's revealed in the second and sixth movie. Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes is an amazing actor, and he makes the character all the more spectacular. Even though he doesn't appear in every single movie, because he never really appeared in number 3, he's definitely made his presence from the very first moment. Even for people who never read the books, like me, I just watched the movies. It is amazing. Just by listening to people talk about him, even though they don't, it just makes everything. And every movie builds on his return. And it's just absolutely amazing. From his personality to the cold, snake-like way he treats people. He's cold-blooded, absolutely. And the final battle of, like, his last scenes in the last 2 movies have so much presence, even though he's not in the movies all the way through. It's just done so exceptional. He's malicious. He's cold-hearted. He's ruthless. He's manipulative. He is absolutely insane. And I love him for it. For being the number 2 villain on this list. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking now, if Voldemort, who's killed so many people, is only number 2, who's number 1? Well, let's find out. Okay. The number 1 spot goes to a villain. Whereas Biff had two movies to be an amazing villain in the past and the present. Even though we didn't get to see him as Biff in the third one. And Marvin Harry had 2 spots. Dr. Evil had 3 spots. And Voldemort basically had 6 spots of being a villain in their own universe. And no matter how many people Voldemort killed within the 7-movie series, there is a villain who basically accumulated all of that in one goddamn movie. One movie. A villain was able to have renown, to have just his name strike fear into people, completely in the shadows, completely making everyone, even the audience, curious, is an absolute beast and has a body count that even Criminal Minds would say he need to be stopped. Pulling up from the 13th spot, guys, to the number 1 spot. Because the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is making the world believe he didn't exist. Just from that quote alone, you guys should know who it is. It's goddamn Verbal Kent, a.k.a. Kaiser Sose of the usual suspects. God damn it. I heard about this movie, Kaiser Sose. And last year, me and my dad finally watched it. I've seen it only bits and pieces on TV. So because of the pandemic and lockdown, last year, me and my dad got together. I found it online. We watched it fully for a father-son time. And goddamn, we were both shocked. It was amazing. The guy telling you the story of the events of the movie, played by Kevin Spacey, is basically the villain telling you the story, but you don't know it until the big twist, and it's amazing. The final scene where he's coming up with this entire story of what's going on is referenced in a Key and Peele joke where the criminal is basically taking things that he sees behind the detective and trying to make a story out of it. That's what this movie is. We can't really know 100% what fully is Kaiser Soze. He's a gang dude who criminals broke into the house and threatened him to kill his family. But Kaiser Soze is so evil and powerful, he killed his own family so they couldn't use them against him. Yeah, he's that malicious. He manipulates everyone around him, pulling strings from the shadows so that no one knows who he is or what he looks like. And near the end of the movie, we see Verbal's fear in his eyes as the name Kaiser Soze is revealed. And it just strikes fear into us of who this guy is and why is he so afraid. They throw every twist in the book to try to make things seem like what's being said. And then in the last 5 minutes of the movie, the truth is revealed, not by word of mouth, but through realization and double backing on everything that was said. In the end scene that's referenced a lot, the limp turns into a straight leg and the devil is revealed. Kevin Spacey started this list and now he's going to goddamn end it. This just shows Kevin Spacey's range from a movie where he's supposed to be a comical villain to and then this one where he's an absolute monster. Why wouldn't I put him on the top of the list? He's mysterious, he's malicious, he's downright manipulative, he's evil. And unlike every villain on this list, okay, except for Velma and Roxy, he's the one that got away with his crimes and will never see the name Kaiser Soze again, only in legend. And that is why he is the number one movie villain for me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week's episode. Really hope you enjoyed the list. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And let's see, where's my schedule? Aha, here we go. Join me next week as we continue Villain Month for a Funko figurine that is basically his merchandise. This is Gamer K, logging out.